Buenos días nuevamente con todos los asistentes. Vamos a dar inicio a la primera conferencia magistral de este evento Citie Jinis 2022. Tenemos ya conectado al doctor Wong Hsiagn, quien es científico investigador senior y codirector del programa de investigación en Ciencias del Aprendizaje e Innovación en el Centro de Investigación, Pedagogía y Práctica, Oficina de Investigación en Educación, Instituto Nacional de Educación, de la Universidad Tecnológica de Hsiagn, en Singapur. Recibió su doctorado en Ingeniería Informática como carrera principal y con un enfoque de inteligencia artificial en la educación. Sus intereses de investigación actuales se encuentran en las áreas de aprendizaje móvil y continuo, aprendizaje de idiomas y ciencias asistidos por computador, aprendizaje colaborativo asistido por computadora y desarrollo profesional de docentes. Aprovechando su vasta experiencia en la realización de investigaciones basadas en el diseño y estudios de intervención longitudinal en escuela, desarrolló sus nichos tanto en el aprendizaje continuo como en el aprendizaje de idiomas asistido por computadora. En particular, el doctor Wong se ha convertido en un investigador clave en el aprendizaje continuo móvil al liderar los esfuerzos de síntesis. Desarrolló 10 dimensiones del aprendizaje continuo móvil, uno de los marcos más influyentes y mejor referenciados en el campo. En su producción Informe de Pedagogía Innovadora 2012, comisariado por la Open University del Reino Unido y el capítulo sobre el aprendizaje móvil, y recientemente publicó 2 libros que se promocionaron como los 2 primeros libros académicos sobre el aprendizaje continuo móvil, a saber, Aprendizaje Continuo en la Era de la Conectividad Móvil, en el cual es editor principal, y Muévete, Aprende Idiomas, como autor principal. Hasta la fecha, ha publicado cerca de 40 artículos de revistas indexadas SSI y se ha ganado los premios Best Outstanding Paper Awards en el IED 95 y muchos otros más. Actualmente es editor gerente de Asia Pacific Journal of Education, indexado por SSI, y es editor asociado de IEEE Transaction on Learning Technology. Damos la bienvenida al doctor Wong Hsiagn. Él tendrá a su cargo la ponencia Blended Learning Out Seamless Learning Experiences. Buen día, profesor. Lo dejo con el auditorio. Lo recibimos con fuertes aplausos.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Yeah, so hi, so can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, I don't speak Spanish, so I suppose I should start now. Yeah, because this is actually close to 11 p.m. in Singapore here. Yeah, but then I'm with you now. Okay, so I will start now. Sure. Okay. Yeah, so I'm talking about this blended learning through seamless learning experience. Blended learning is something that you probably heard of before, but seamless learning is probably new to most of you. But then I'm going to give some introduction of what it is about and how it may inform blended learning design. So using this case of study of Singapore for this, yeah, hello. So let's see if I can hear this. Let's see if this works. Let me try. Okay, this is supposed to be a video created by Ministry of Education of Singapore. Actually, we talk about this. We talk about a story telling about this young boy. He's a secondary school student having a home-based learning day. Yeah, let's see how it may look like. Okay. Yeah, we'll skip a bit.
Excuse me, Mr. Wong, we can share the video.
Nice. Really experience. This is in Singapore. Search for the rest. So this is about how we envision home-based learning. You could. So let's see. I'll talk about this, how this happened, all this, how Singapore came to this point. We have a home-based learning in Singapore in the early stage of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, and then we decided to make it something more permanent, something a little bit at least we make it a regular thing rather than just for pandemic. So it's blended learning. We move it to blended learning, and we have something we call personal digital learning program in Singapore, which every secondary school students are having their own mobile device or their own computer to bring along school at home for learning purpose. And we'll talk about how Singapore's readiness, how Singapore is ready, and how they adapt in responding to the pandemic. And then actually, because of this, we accelerate the ICT integration. We make it faster in ICT integration and pedagogical reform. We used to be slower, but then because of pandemic, actually we make it faster. Okay, so and how seamless learning may inform all this standard learning and PDLP program. So this is something we're going to talk about. So what happened during when we were fighting COVID-19 from the way beginning, February to July 2020, when it all started? At the beginning, schooling as usual, because we have low cases during February and March, lower number of cases. We have safe distancing, temperature taking, we cancel major event and co-curricular activities, student activities. And then by the end of March, we decided, okay, maybe just in case we really need to go to lockdown, we never know. So there's actually our Ministry of Education, or MOE, they started to experiment home-based learning. So only one day every week, get student and get teacher ready. And then in April, we said, okay, case suddenly surged, become very large cases, a lot of cases. Back then was already thousands, more than thousands a day. So we decided to go for with something we call circuit breaker, which actually means lockdown. Yeah, because of lockdown, we went to a full home-based learning, or full HBL. So it's about 1 whole month we stay home. And then we have our early mid-year vacation. We used to have a holiday in June. Then we shifted it to May. And we're back to school in June when local infections under control. And then at the end of June, we went fully back to school, but we have strict prevention measures. But then the story continues from there. Yeah, okay, until this year. So in the next 2 years, that's what's going to happen. That I'm going to introduce to you. And you can see this in March 27, they implement 1 day of home-based learning a week. That was the original plan. So get ready, because we don't know when. Most likely, but we don't know when we're going to have full home-based learning. But before that, we try it once. Yeah, get everybody prepared for it. Yeah, exercise for it. Then we have a full home-based learning nationwide for 1 full month. And of course, we have parents also stay back for their home-based working from home. Yeah, so that's what the slogan come out from our ministry, called "Stay home, but stay curious, stay learning." So that's the plan. And we see what happened is that this is our then education minister. Okay, so we have this Facebook page, and you see how do the posting. We have did this kind of synchronous activities. We even have singing national anthem every morning. Yeah, we're supposed to do it at school, but then we do it at home. Okay, and we even have tests. Yeah, online tests. So everybody's supposed to do their tests at home. Yeah, we used to be at school in the classroom. Now we do it at home. And then we even have physical education. We're supposed to do it at school, and now we do it at home. So you see the teachers, they kind of doing a showcase to the rest, and then we see what happened is that the children do it at home. And of course, we have this issue of not every student, they have their own computer at home. So what happened is that we have some volunteers that came up. They actually collected laptops, those second-hand laptops that people want to give it away, and then it's already old. And then they collected the donated laptops, and then they fixed it. They get engineers to fix it voluntarily, and then give it to the students who are low-income families for home-based learning, so that every student can learn from home. But those students who really couldn't do it at home, there's still about 20% of teachers, they went back to school. So those students who need to get back to school, they still have a chance to go back. So it becomes a hybrid, not totally home-based learning. So that was what happened. And then we see these teachers, they design activities, all the classes became online, but then they design activities of good mix of activities. We have teachers who do teaching, and then there are also student-centered learning. We have direct instruction, modeling, discussion, small group discussions, collaborative tasks, and also practice and review, assessment. They're doing this. Yeah, and they even design a lesson escape room experience. If you know what escape room is, and now we have a virtual escape room. Now we have this, but actually they map into this learning design, which they call it starting from activate learning, and then they promote thinking, discussion, and facilitate demonstration of learning, and eventually they want to monitor and feedback. So I have the activities like discussion, direct instruction, practice, review, assessment. All these they being put into this escape room experience. Yeah, so make it something a bit more fun, like a game, but then they're still learning what they're supposed to learn. Okay. But can we really go far? Because the attitude, let's look at the attitudes of teachers and students and parents. In May 2021, even they talk about this, they say, okay, I don't want to go back anymore. So it's a wrong year. It should be May 2020. Okay. So the teacher said, home-based learning, online learning is just a quick fix. Let's get back to old normal, which is get back to the physical classroom as soon as we can. The kids are not learning under my nose. The teachers really worry about this. If everybody learn it at home, self-regulation the student self-regulate, ability of self-learning, can they do self-learning by themselves and no face-to-face yet, need to do synchronous collaborative learning. They don't know whether they can do that. If they want the student to do small group discussion, collaborative learning, but not face-to-face, it's online, can the student do that? They wonder, the teacher wonder. So, and then the result teacher thinks that if we do home-based learning, actually there are a lot more preparation and a lot more time need to do, need to deliver a lesson within the HBL setting. So I said I cannot even finish the syllabus, the curriculum, efficiency first. Yeah, so I don't want to spend so much time on doing home-based learning. So better get back to classroom because it's more efficient for me to prepare for, more efficient for me to deliver the course. So that's what teachers thought. And also for parents, they said I need to work from home too because during that period of time. So actually they also feel that if I work from home and my kids are learning from home, yeah, do home-based learning is actually whether we're actually going to kind of interrupt each other, distracting each other. And also the issue about this looks nothing like classroom learning. The parents think that it's still most effective if we do classroom learning rather than learning from home. So that's what parents thought. So it's a worry. So, and then circuit breaker or lockdown came to the end in June 2020, but then HBL or even blended learning, can it become part of our new education normal? So that's why the schools went back to full home-based learning. So against the wrong year, it should be 2020, May and September. It went back to full home-based learning twice for a shorter period, only 2 weeks. So that because that was a cases surge. Yeah, so we at least we try to protect young children. Yeah, so that was what happened. But then we still got back to school after this 2 weeks period was over. So, but then you look at this the year because actually I put a straight line here below there. There's the date is actually in I think it's in June. Yeah, I couldn't see clearly because of small font size. It's in June, sometime in June. So our education minister said that home-based learning is set to be a regular part of schooling post-COVID-19. We thought we were going to go back to old normal, but then instead they said become regular part of schooling. So that was what the education ministry started thinking about. And so we make it the term regular. And also sometimes in June, they said MOE, Ministry of Education, they start thinking about, okay, whether we should blend classroom and digital online learning and school reopen after COVID-19 circuit breaker. They want to do blended learning. So let's move to that and make it a regular thing. Okay, so the word blend. So that was the time before they talk about blended learning. So they talk blend. Yeah. So, but then, okay, this is January 2021, about half a year later. Then now, the ministry is ready to tell the world. They said, okay, now we're actually talking about blended learning. At the earliest time, they said, when we talk about blended learning, then the media, the people, they didn't know. But now, okay, we want the people to know what is meant by blended learning, and we're going for it. So that's what our ministry did. And so for those who are new to blended learning, I just quickly talk about this. The example of our technology enhanced learning approach. This is the one way. So it's a formal education program in which a student learn at least in part through online learning, their entire learning process designed by instructor, and some student control over time, place, and path or space, because there are certain time, okay, instead of 100%, let's say all the 11 over the whole year, maybe there are 100 classes, for this lesson. Now about 50 lessons of them we're going to do it at home, and it's not necessary that it's always about online learning at Zoom, let's say through Zoom, and then everybody, the teachers have to teach, and then the student learning at the same time. It could be certain activities that students find their own time, their own going through things that the teacher give them to read, to watch video, to do some exercise, and then to do some online discussion. So all this, they don't need to do it at the same time. So I give you 1 week's time, you finish this and come back to class. So this is something we call blended learning. So it's back and forth between school lesson physically, and then you go home to do online learning. So that's called blended learning. Okay. Blended can be any combination of pedagogical logistic time, resource, and organizational considerations. So that's what blended learning means. So over here, this is actually Singapore, one of the Singapore teachers, school teachers understanding how they make sense of blended learning. So they introduce in this way. So they have face-to-face in school learning. You look at the bottom part. Okay, hands-on activities like laboratory-based practical lesson, discussion that requires immediate feedback. Also understanding abstract or complex concepts, or in the classroom or maybe in the lab, for experiment. And home-based learning, self-directed and self-based learning. The student analyze data, maybe making connections, patterns at home. They have peer feedback. They can do peer feedback. They post it, share with their class through virtual space and through, let's say, through a social network, and then their classmate can respond to them, give peer feedback. They can create or co-create certain student work together. They can do reflection on their own learning at their own time. Okay, so then in March, this is in March. This is even before our circuit breaker, even before our lockdown. We have the government also announced that personal learning device for all secondary students by 2028. So that's what they talk about. And this was in March 2020, but then you come to next slide. Within 3 months' time, they decided to make it much faster. Instead of 2028, we do it in 2021, 7 years earlier. So within 1 year's time, we want all the secondary school students to have their own computer. It could be a laptop, a notebook, a small notebook, or maybe it can be a tablet. So that's what they're planning to do. So what they plan to do, but actually already done. Now PDLP is all the way. All the secondary schools didn't have one. They also piloted this program in 5 primary schools. So maybe in a few years' time, all the primary school students going to have their own computers as well. So that was something that, in fact, 4 years ago, they said, okay, this is not something that we're going for. So they didn't plan for this at all. And then because of this pandemic, they decided, okay, maybe we should go this way. So we also have NIE is actually where I come from, National Institute of Education. We are the only teacher training university institute in Singapore. We are also doing research. So I'm actually a research scientist. So we have this NIE's effort. We support the transition. We call it seamless learning in practice. So what happened was that back then we have this AST. We call it Academy of School Teachers, which we have a group of very experienced teachers. They call it master teachers, the highest level of school teachers from secondary school and primary school. When those are best teachers, they put them together into something we call this AST, and they are mainly doing teacher training. So, and back then in 2020, when Ministry of Education, they said, okay, we want to go for blended learning, but we need someone to help to come up with some framework, and also professional development program to train all our local students to do, local teachers to do blended learning. So they started reading because they didn't know what kind of pedagogy they should do, how they design for blended learning lessons, how they design lessons. So actually they came across seamless learning, which is actually my expertise in seamless learning. So I read a lot of papers, including those papers written by me in the past 10 years. So they came out with this framework. I look at this diagram, which they say, okay, we have these asynchronous activities or synchronous activities from left to right. We have on-screen or off-screen activities, digital or this or physical. So there are certain types of, so it means that if you draw this as x-axis, y-axis, something looks like that, and then it becomes a 4 quarters of different spaces. So they can do different types of activities in different spaces. So the teacher need to find the best space to do specific activities. Can be on screen, off screen, even collaborative learning. You can be on screen, you can be off screen. Say for example, you are doing research on screen, off screen. You can do some tests or exercise either on screen or off screen, or either asynchronous or synchronous. And then you can see these arrows. It means that when you design a learning lesson plan, a learning activities, learning sequence is supposed to be moving between among these different spaces. So first we do it on screen and synchronous maybe, and then we go in off screen synchronous and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's blended learning, home and school. And they could be individual learning and social learning. Yeah, in yellow or in blue colors. Okay. So in July 2020, they developed this diagram by referring to our seamless learning framework to guide nationwide in-service teachers PD. Yeah. So professional development. Okay. So and then NIE researcher then they invited. They said since actually I'm from local. Well, I'm also from Singapore, so they invited me, yeah, to give talks and then to help them to improve their diagram, their framework. So that's what happened. Okay. And seamless learning, we have this. So now I'm trying to introduce, because in blended learning, they looked at the blended learning literature. They didn't see much about pedagogy, especially for K to 12, because I'm talking about primary school and secondary school teachers, how they design learning experience for students. And then they come across maybe seamless learning can inform them. Seamless learning sounds similar to blended learning. They are overlapping ideas, but they're also very different things. Yeah, so we see continuity of learning across different contexts. Therefore, context spaces, learning in formal spaces and informal spaces. Formal learning means that learning at school with teachers teaching you. Informal learning, learning at home, learning out there, learning elsewhere, or you find your own time to go online research. They are also considered informal learning. Yeah, and then we have learning individually or learning socially. And then we also try to learn physically in the physical space, and then also learning in digital space. So all these are different learning spaces. It might have something we call the seams over there, but can we remove the seams, become seamless? So it's not just about learning anytime, anywhere, but we need to bridge the learning processes and outcomes, ideally in one device per learner settings. Yeah, so that's the idea. Okay, so and we look at this example. We have a grade 3 science, plants and their parts. Yeah, I think we have a time constraint, so I just quickly go through this to give you a very quick sense, but I need to skip some slides. So we look at in-class learning. So we start with this learning in class first. There are several activities to give your students some idea. We're going to learn this particular topic is about, we learn the plants about, they have roots and they have stem and they have leaves. So each of parts, they have their own functionality, but you put them together, then you can see how water being transported. So water, that the root going supposed to absorb waters from the earth, and then you're going to transport to the plant, the stem, and then to the leaves. So that's the idea. So there are several activities, including one. So now that every student at grade 3, they have during our experiment, they have their own mobile device, their own smartphone. So the student, one of the activities to get the student to dismantle to a pen and then relate them. They say, okay, this does it look like plant parts because it looks like root and stem and leaf because you can transport. It transport in, and then in the plants they transport water. Yeah, so they use their mobile phone to video record the entire activity. They share in the classroom and discuss how they explain how this looks similar to plants. And then out of school, the student feels something we call KWL. Yeah, KWL is for those who are in science education, they know this scaffold. First of all, the student supposed to feel I know. Before the lesson start, the student feel I know. That means that activate their prior knowledge. And then I wonder, it's something like they set their learning goal. Yeah, I wonder if bees are insects. It means that the learning goal is to find out whether the bees are insects. Yeah, and then they carry on with all these activities. At the end of the learning activities, they're supposed to have learned something. They feel the L, which is I learned, past tense, I learned. Figure out whatever you have learned. Yeah, so but now we're going to get the student to input all this on their mobile phone. Then out of school, the student go home, go to neighborhood. They start to take photos of plant parts and post on the blogs to share that, okay, I see these different types of roots and then it looks very different, maybe it functions differently. So they start discuss online. They say, why these few roots look differently and these leaves look differently. So they need to do online internet search to find explanation and share with their class, their classmates. So out of school, students discuss, compare photos on the blogs. And out of school, the student create, also using their smartphone, they create animations to illustrate the transportation system, the transport system, how the water being transported. and share the classroom. So this is something we call it make thinking visible. And then in class, the teacher shows good student work, animations, and also K&W of their KWL, invite students to comment. And out of school, the student create concept map to summarize the learning gains and feel the L part of the KWL. And then go back to the classroom, teacher shows good L and concept map, invite students to comment. You can see all this, how we seamlessly moving across, bridging formal and informal learning, and we bridge this individual learning and social learning. We bridge learning in physical space and digital space, and we use a smartphone of a student. They own their smartphone, and then they bring over everything. They do everything on the phone, but with different apps, and then they share their products with their classmates. So this is how it works. We're talking about seamless learning. I need to skip this part because this is an explanation of how seamless learning is being designed. Yeah. Okay. So we have this seamless learning framework developed by actually both are developed by me. Yeah. So the left-hand side is about we call it 10 dimensions of mobile seamless learning. This is actually a very well cited diagram or model. Yeah, in the seamless learning literature. And then the right-hand side is actually more relevant to teachers because this is how I come up with learning. Start with top left corner, learning engagement. And then the bottom left corner is personalized learning. You're learning at home, you go and collect data at home. Something like you take photos of those plants is considered data collection, but do it at home. Yeah. And then we have online social learning. Look at the bottom right, online social learning. You share your findings, you share your understanding, or you share the data you've collected, with your classmate, and then you discuss and do knowledge building together, and eventually go back to the classroom top right corner for in-class consolidation. But again, this we don't have to follow this exact order. You can actually shift between these different activities, and in fact, you look at this. I need to move to the next slide. It looks very similar to what the AST teachers have came up. Yeah, so which actually they refer to our work to come up with their own version. Okay. Yeah. So this is something that after all this AST, they actually do trainings for the teachers, and then the Ministry of Education, they came up with this template for the teachers to design their learning experience. So we look at this, we have individual, group, and class. Yeah, from bottom to top, and you see how this activity flow. They're being designed this way to get the teacher to visualize their own learning design. So again, we map back to this activate learning, promote thinking and discussion, facilitate demonstration of learning, and finally monitor and provide feedback. This is what a framework they already have before the pandemic. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later. I want to talk about Singapore's readiness in implementing blended learning education reforms prior to the pandemic. We have some of them I have to skip that because of time constraint. We have this holistic education. Yeah, so but then we also develop teachers design capacity. We call it, other than ST, we come up Singapore teaching practice. Singapore teaching practice, there's a framework for the teachers to design lesson plans, design lessons. So all these, we keep seeing this: activate learning, promote thinking, facilitate demonstration learning, monitoring feedback, and this is actually part of the STP, Singapore teachers teaching practice. So now all the Singapore teachers, K-12 teachers, they're already very familiar with this. Most of the time they design their lesson plans following this framework. So that's how it works. We already have this even before the pandemic. So now what they need to do is to map these activities originally from the physical classroom to the online space. Or blended learning is actually, you can traverse between physical class and online space by going through all these 4 activities. Okay. Yeah. So we can see this. Just now we saw the learning experience. We saw something we call it design map. You see the bottom one. All these are about STP. Okay. So again, time constraint, I'm not going through in details, but I'm not going to show this video, but you can find it actually from YouTube if you're interested. You just search for student learning space, you can find this. Okay. So this was developed by Ministry of Education, launched in 2018. That's 2 years before the pandemic. So what happened is that they get the student, not only they allow the teacher and student to do more self-paced and self-directed and collaborative learning, but what happened is that it's not only develop all these tools or features available for what teachers want. They they ask the teacher, what do you want? And then they design all these things. And then they also look at STPs, Singapore teaching practice. So these are the framework, and this is something that we want the teacher to do. Even at the beginning, teacher didn't want to do that. But we design all these tools to help the teachers to assist the teacher in implementing STP. And then later they say, okay, we are doing research. I mean, in National Institute of Education, we are researchers. We are doing research. We design a lot of different pedagogical practice. We also design technological tools, and also other universities are also doing the same. So in the future, when we design something that we develop something after our research, and then Ministry of Education, they think that, okay, this is a very good, I'm going to scale it up, make all the schools to use it. So all they need to do is just to plug, or redesign, to redevelop the tool, integrate the tool into student learning space. And then it's just instantly being implemented in all the local K-12 schools. Without the need to copy the software everywhere, because it's all on the same platform. So that's the idea. So for greater flexibility and variety for teacher design and lesson plans, and also, okay, so there are major updates every 3 months. Just what I explained just now, starting with addressing what teachers need to help SLS to reach critical mass quickly. All schools going to use it. New features could transform teaching and learning and to bridge research and practice. So research outcome can immediately be plugged into practice. So again, I will skip this part, and this is just show this about SLS features. One of the features we call interactive thinking tools. So just now you saw, so what happened is that in the video you saw just now, the boy, he fill up something which looks like this. There are 3 thinking routine. There's a thinking routine with these 3 what and why and how. You start. You have the first one, and you fill the second one, you fill the third one. So it's up to teacher to design this thinking routine. You can change this like problem. You're setting problem, and then you find explanation, and then you find explanation, and then finally you find solution. So you can put in anything you want to put in, or KWL, you can do it that way. And the student, when they key in this, is not just to send to the teacher. They can also send to their classmates, and their class can look at it. They can compare their posting, and then they discuss. If there's any difference, they can always discuss and find out why we think this differently, and maybe you can learn from each other and co-create knowledge. So this is something, one of the SLS features we have. Other routine, KWL, observe, think question, inquire, you can do. So reflection on seamless learning and new education normal, seamless learning versus blended learning. Because the entire blended learning experience, either face-to-face or online, synchronous or asynchronous, they are largely prescribed by teacher. Teacher design everything. Even you get you to do it at home, online, it's still everything designed by teacher. You just follow what teacher tell you to do. Except that you have you can carry out all this activity at your own pace, at your own time. Okay. But instead, seamless learning, they privilege more open-ended, incidental learning, authentic learning interactions. Students supposed to interact with humans, interact with spaces. So it means that we welcome more self-directed learning. We welcome students to learn incidentally. This is a learning opportunity. So you pick up whatever the teacher didn't tell you to learn in this way. You have this opportunity, you just pick it up and learn from there, and share with your classmates about your experience. So their specific seamless learning experience design can be subsumed into blended learning. So that's how actually our seamless learning, we have a very clear idea of how you design the pedagogy of seamless learning, and we use it to inform blended learning design. So just quickly tell you, this is what our minister, then education minister, now he's already a health minister, Wong 2 years ago, he said something like this. While older generations believe that a good tertiary qualification, good university qualification should see them through their careers, children today are instead growing up in a very different world than our time. Technology is advancing rapidly, industries are always changing. Solving big challenges like climate change or social inequality requires expertise that spans across disciplinary boundaries. So in time, when they step into workforce, they will already be wondering what skills and knowledge they need a year or 2 later. So COVID-19 will reset the competitive playing field and accelerate these trends. So instead of making this blended learning or home-based learning as a quick fix of COVID-19, and after the pandemic, we're going to move back to the pure physical class. Instead, in Singapore, we actually make Ministry of Education and all the schools decide that, okay, we want to go for blended learning. Yeah, we want to integrate ICT even more than before, so that we can provide students greater opportunity to learn openly. Yeah, so in this, to address all this ever-changing world, the need for that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so.
So now we'll move on to the questions. If anyone in the audience wants to ask something, please raise your hand. Ahora seguiremos con las preguntas. Si alguien del público, ya sea presencial o virtual, desea hacer alguna pregunta, levante la mano.
I think I saw someone raise a hand.
In the future, it will be necessary to change the courses of the universities for the education career, or will a new career adapted to the needs of blended learning be created?
Very sorry, I can't hear it clearly. Were you actually asking a question, or you're actually telling the audience to ask question, or what?
In the future, will it be necessary to change the courses at the university for the education career, or will a new career adapted to the needs of blended learning be created?
Really sorry, I can't hear it clearly. Or is it someone able to chat? I mean, type it from the chat or what? Or chat have been turned off for this meeting. I really can't hear it clearly, the question. Cannot hear it clearly.
Yeah, one moment, please. We will repeat the question.
Yeah, I can only hear a few words. So it's something like I heard something like courses and or assessment or whatever is it. I couldn't really, I didn't really catch the entire question. Way to, yeah, so chat had been turned off for this meeting. That's what I read. So again, is it possible someone key in this question to the chat?
Yeah, the audience will put the questions in the chat. Wait, please. So we have one question. Which challenges do you consider the other generations will have for implementing blended learning?
Okay, what I can hear, what challenges do you face in what? So I'm not sure which the last part of the question.
Which challenges do you consider the older generations will have for implementing blended learning?
The challenges in implementing blended learning, is it? Was that the
question? Yeah, the older generations.
So it really depends. At least in Singapore's case, of course, I think the most important issue is still about teachers' readiness. When I have all these interacting with teachers and also providing some workshops to train the teachers in implementing blended learning or designing for blended learning. I think most of the teachers, they still have this mindset about physical lesson is something is most effective. They are really not really trust the student. They can learn properly at home. They can learn effectively at home. So this is something that we need to make them more open-minded. Yeah. So and then of course there are also a very small number, maybe 3 to 5% of students, they really have difficulty to learn to use the computer to learn from home. So even if in secondary school, all the students, they already have their own mobile device, their own laptop or their own tablet. But then the other issue is that so those who come from a low income family, can they really pay for the internet access? Which I think that they also try to give them some sort of I think that our ministry actually give them some this financial support. Yeah, so at least these are a few challenges I can think of. So also students' readiness is another issue. So students, they need to, again, they need to be self-directed in a sense. Yeah, they need to be more collaborative. So more student-centered learning required than in physical classroom, because teachers may not be around all the time, especially when they're doing online learning. So these are the things that we still on our way. Still some a little bit long way for us to go, but then I think we're trying to moving towards that direction. And okay, another question: is there any plans for future for HBL to implement in other countries? I think that really depends on individual countries. Their Ministry of Education. Yeah, so it's not up to our Ministry of Education to tell the rest of the world what you should do. Yeah, so I think most of the Ministry of Education in other countries, maybe they'll prefer that, okay, better go back to physical lessons. We quite go back to old normal. Yeah, so maybe there are a few other countries that are willing to do it, to moving to a blended learning like Singapore, which so far I've never heard of, but maybe a few of them are moving toward that. But it's not something that we can control. Yeah. So in the future, will that be necessary to change the courses at University of Education career, or will a new career adapted to the needs of blended learning be created? I think, yeah, that not necessarily the new career, but actually all the existing teachers, all the existing professors, they are supposed to change their way of teaching and or facilitate learning, and all the students should change their way of learning if they still living in their past, or still continue, if they thought they can still continue in teaching in their old way or learning in their old way. Now they really need to change the mindset. Yeah, so teachers, you can retain your job. Students, you're still students, but then you need to change your way. Yeah, change your mindset and change your way of teaching and learning. That's how I see it. Okay, so that means there's no other question so far.
Yeah, we have another question. Ricardo says, in the future, will it be necessary to change the courses at universities for the education career, or will a new career adapted to the needs of blended learning be created?
Actually, just already answered. Yeah, so I already answered that question.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as we don't have any more questions, we thank Dr. Wong for his presentation. Please, everyone, give a round of applause. Como no tenemos ninguna pregunta, agradecemos al Dr. Wong por su presentación. Por favor, todos ustedes aplaudan.
All right, so I will make a move. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, enjoy the conference.
Hoy continuaremos con el refrigerio, que es hasta las 10:50, y luego tenemos.
Thank you. Bye.